This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's going on, Winnipeg and Manitoba? Great to have you with us. It is another edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. A victory Wednesday, as it were, as the Jets get a big 6-3 win over the Minnesota Wild last night at Canada Life Center. Going to be all over it today. Murat is going to join us a little bit later on from The Athletic. We'll also touch base with the Fink and get the latest on the Manitoba Moose, who've been playing much better hockey over the course of the last few weeks. And we're also going to check in with our friends at True North Sports and Entertainment as the Winnipeg Jets launch the We're All In campaign for season ticket packages and ticket packages for next year, as well as the upcoming Stanley Cup playoffs. Norva Riddell is going to jump on, and we'll get the 411 on all of that as well. Fun night at the building last night, although maybe much of what was expected when it comes to any sort of retribution on the Minnesota Wild took place on the scoreboard and not necessarily on the ice. But so much to get to from last night's game, and we'll do that with Michael Remis in just a minute. But lots of hockey today on the docket. Before we bring in Michael Remis, welcome to everyone that's with us live on YouTube. Great to see you as always. Hit that thumbs up, and if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And a big thanks to the sponsors that make this program happen every day. The gang of Princess Auto, our friends at Coolbet Canada, of course, Canadian Club, Manitoba Battery, Modern Man Barber Shop, Wallace & Wallace, F Apparel, the Winnipeg Jets, Little Brown Jug, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, the gang at Sport Manitoba, supported by Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries, and of course, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. And lots of options coming out of last night's game for our why not question of the day, which we will get to for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. Let's get Remo in here. And Reem, first things first, a big 2 points, a nice win, 6 more goals, and the power play, which had completely deserted this team up until about a week ago, remains on fuego.
Yeah, that's 3 straight games with 2 goals on the power play after we're saying, last weekend, we're like, oh, what are they doing with this top line here? And, they come out and, huge game in Vancouver. Big game yesterday. What's going on with this power play? Stinks. Looking great yesterday. Vilardi down low, either taking it himself, passing it to Scheifele, passing it to Monahan. Monahan, this trade acquisition. When's he going to score? He's got 3 straight games with a goal, 5 goals total. So, maybe there's some things you'd like to clean up there, but the bottom line is a win over Minnesota, 3-0 against Minnesota this season. Love to see it. We can get into Lowry snapping a 10-game pointless streak. He had 2 assists yesterday. Lots to get to, Huss, but some nice chants. Good crowd last night at Canada Life Center. But yes, 2 points against Minnesota, and the Jets are back in there in the Western Conference here. And when you're looking at the most important thing that matters, points percentage.
We're back to being a points percentage show. That's right.
Yeah, we're back. Yeah, and so there they are, second in the conference. Vancouver lost again. Haven't won since losing to the Jets. So
did the Jets break the Vancouver Canucks on Saturday night?
I'm not sure, but there they are. They got a
first three game losing streak of the year. They followed up after the Jets beat them on Saturday by giving up a 10 spot to Minnesota. And actually, it was a really good game and a hard-fought one last night. They ended up giving up an empty netter and losing to the Colorado Avalanche, who, of course, did eke back ahead of the Winnipeg Jets last night. But when we, as much as we are officially today a points percentage show, which would tell you that the Winnipeg Jets are first place in the Central, they are in fact third right now. But, man, those games in hand are looming large right now, especially, and we'll get to what's coming up for the Jets out of this game in a bit with Murat. But Dallas lost last night to the Rangers. So you've got Dallas at 76 points through 57 games. The Avalanche, 74 points through 57 games. And the Winnipeg Jets at 73, but having only played 54 games. So the Jets essentially 19 games above 500, Colorado 17, and Dallas 19 as well. So, yes, the Jets number one in points percentage right now, but they do have to make it up. Although, considering they have 3 games to make up, interesting, they've got 2 more days off before their next game, which, of course, will be Friday night in Chicago against the Blackhawks, and then right back home for a Sunday 5 p.m. game against the Arizona Coyotes, who have the Leafs tonight at Mullet. Arizona, losers of 10 straight. So a big opportunity for the Jets going forward over these next couple games to get back into first place officially. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Remo, you talked about the crowd last night. And it was it started off, the crowd was full. They were right around 15,000. Certainly the upper deck looked completely jammed. And it didn't really look like there was any holes in it. But it did start sort of quietly, and, for both the crowd, but also the game on the ice. Now, the Jets had a couple early goals, which put them into a nice spot. But I will admit, I was kind of thinking that it was going to be a little bit more, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, bloodthirsty. Listen, we've been talking about this game for 6+ weeks since what happened on the 31st of December. We knew they sold a lot of tickets for this game. People wanted to be there to see what would happen when the two teams got back together. And I'll be honest, there wasn't much at all. Were you surprised at how normal that game was?
Maybe a little, and no, I think it was done. What they need to escalate. The Jets let their play do the talking. They beat them up. They had a 3-0 lead. And, some of the guys on Minnesota who get involved in that kind of stuff weren't playing. Marcus Foligno is always involved in extracurriculars. So is Patrick Maroon. And I think the Jets are just focused on winning. They're not focused on BS. They don't play into that. And I think they've shown that in the past, and they showed it again yesterday. We did have the Stanley against Middleton after, Middleton. Middleton drove Scheifele into the boards, but it looked like Middleton was in the middle of apologizing to Scheifele, and
he was,
and didn't try. And the next thing I know, they're fighting. So I think the Jets are just focused on their own game. They're not focused on any BS. They're trying to knock Minnesota out of the playoffs, trying to win. Go 3-0 against them. Maybe you'd like to see Hartman get a couple extra whacks or something. But who on their team?
I would have loved someone to at least breathe on him. And listen, I'm not one of these guys that, is normally talking about fighting all the time. And that, listen, the fight between Stanley and Middleton was funny for a couple of other reasons. And we'll kind of talk about that. But I did expect, I'm just going to be honest, I did expect maybe a little bit more of an answer from the Winnipeg Jets and a direct challenge to Ryan Hartman, considering what had happened. First of all, with Ehlers, to be frank, I expected that in the 30th game when the Jets played the Wild for the first time this season. We all know what happened over the course of those 2 games. And listen, he certainly got away unscathed. Now, he did take a penalty, which led to Vilardi's goal, which really iced it. And shout out to the fans up in 330 that started chanting, "Thank you, Hartman." We got a kick out of that. And listen, beating the Minnesota Wild absolutely is what hurts that team the most. I can't help but think, and you know what? I'm going to put this to the chat right now for the Why Not question of the day for Not Autocorp over at Waverly and McGillivray. Were you disappointed, or did you expect more as far as of some sort of response, considering everything that had built up heading into that game? Or were you absolutely fine with the Jets getting a lead, not doing anything stupid, certainly to a Minnesota power play that has been humming and did score last night, and taking care of what was most important, which was the 2 points? I can't help but think that if the roles were reversed and what had happened to Cole Perfetti happened to Marco Rossi, for instance, from Minnesota, and this game was in Minnesota last night as opposed to here in Winnipeg, I think it would have been bananas. I think it would have been nuts. And I think the Wild would have been running around maybe like idiots the whole game trying to do stuff. But I was surprised. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. And maybe this is my own fault and our own fault for sort of building this up with certain expectations. But it did seem a little weird to me. And again, maybe it was just they're focusing on the game. It did get to a 4-goal lead and then very quickly was right back to 2 in the third. There wasn't that time and place, and maybe there'll be a time and place later on. But I have to admit, Reem, after we saw John Liu ask Rick Bowness if Ryan's Hartman's name was circled, and he sort of laughed, and as if I'm going to tell you, if you did not know any of the lead up that had happened between these teams earlier this year and just bought a ticket or went to that game last night, you would have had no idea that there was any real animosity between these two teams.
I think you're probably right. Yeah, there wasn't anything different than any other game. And again, I don't think that that's the Jets game. I think they were focused on winning, and they got out to a 3-0 lead and tried to lock it down after. It may got a bit out of hand there in terms of the goals against in the third period. And I know the Jets wanted to clean up some of their 5-on-5 play in the second period. But it is kind of funny when you talk about being outshot. They're 18-6 when they get outshot. So maybe that's they should be changing the strategy from the lockdown 5-on-5 team. But as far as extra the stuff going on, I just don't think that's the Jets game. They don't have a guy who Brandon Dillon, like what you want him to get suspended again or something like that. I don't know what you want him just to go up to Hartman and slash him in the face unprovoked. Was that what you wanted?
I wasn't suggesting the eye for an eye, literally, with the slash in the face off a face-off. But I kind of did think someone would challenge them. I was surprised that there was just that one scrap between Logan Stanley and I guess Nemestikov.
That was a fight. That counts.
Nemestikov and was it Lucchini got after it? Like, put it this way, for all the guys that I thought might be getting physical last night, Vlad Nemestikov probably at the bottom of the list. But what's funny? I'm just looking at the chat right now. Fine with what happened. Get the win. Not disappointed. Just win. I was okay with how the Jets went. Hustler. Let's see right here. It's your boy Bruce. Russo's still salty about how Kaprizov left Winnipeg unharmed for a change. Let's see. Justifying it just goes to show the difference in where they are in the standings. Jay Miller, keep the Wild asleep. Don't wake them up. And Chef Richard, 2 points are more important than settling a score. And I think all of that was the case. Yeah, I don't want to. I'm not saying that I'm all bent that nothing happened, but I did think it was an opportunity maybe for sometimes that stuff really brings a team together. And bottom line is this team has been off a little bit. I mean, they did not look good. Well, they looked terrible, frankly, at times on Monday afternoon in the loss to Calgary. So I know everyone would have been much more freaked out today if the team had gone in and gotten all physical and come together as a team but played badly and lost, as opposed to where we're at right now. So maybe the win is the sweetest victory right now. And listen, that's a big loss for Minnesota, who is in an absolute dogfight with the Preds, who had a huge win in Vegas last night, the St. Louis Blues, Calgary Flames, Kraken for that final wild card spot in the West.
Yeah, I think what brings a team together also has winning, and the Jets have done a lot of that this season. 34-15-5. You lose to Calgary, a nice bounce back game. I think they're focused on, they got called out by the coach against Calgary for being soft. I think they wanted to, redeem themselves. Lowry was speaking about that with Jay Onrait after the game. So I don't know. They're playing a different game than Minnesota. Maybe if they had Marcus Foligno and Patrick Maroon, and maybe if they were losing, they would be like, "F this. Let's mix it up now. We're sick of these guys." But they went out and played their game and they won, and then we're gonna get into any like dumb stuff. So yeah, no one got injured, and I don't know. I think they were mad at the time.
That is more the Wild games than the Jets. But as I said, and you know what? Sometimes, you have 6 weeks between these games. I mean, I guarantee you if that game was if it was a 3-game series.
Yes.
And they played in the first game, we're having a very different conversation today. But what was most important to the Jets is that they came back and got 2 points. I mean, overall, the game, I think, listen, LB deserved to be that first star last night. I know he gave a couple goals late, but you mentioned the shot totals. I mean, that game could have been very different, especially the way the Jets were very loose in the second period and still aren't quite where, they were for the majority of the season. And I'm going to ask Murat about this, how you approach these next couple games against Chicago and Arizona. I mean, for a while we were all gnashing our teeth because the team couldn't score. Well, now they're scoring right now, but a lot of the foundation of their success this year hasn't really been on display for a good portion of the last couple games. Just back to the fans for a minute, though. 3:30 stepped up big time with some fun chants, and the upper deck was rocking. I was stunned at them trying to start a wave up 2 goals with 11:30 left in the period. Now, what was interesting about that is that the Jets quickly scored 2 and then quickly gave up 2 as well. So I think it was sort of a wash on the wave. I've had a lot of tweets and stuff about that. We'll call it a push. It did not completely derail the game, that's for sure. And some would suggest the goals came right after the wave. So if you want to do the stats, you can go from there. However, I have to give a particular shout out to the individual, and anyone that was at the game will know who I'm talking about. Freddie Mercury from the Celebrity Lookalike. Celebrity Lookalike last night was unbelievable. They had a girl, Nicki Minaj was the first one. They had an older dude in the back row who was Wolf Blitzer. But then Freddie Mercury, and there you can see him on the Celebrity Lookalike. And as soon as they pan, he was going to get to him. They go to Wolf Blitzer, and then they went back to Freddie Mercury, who immediately chugged 2 beers. And then later on, as Liz Hood just reminded me on Twitter, they flashed back to them in the third period. On the beard cam, the guy next to him had one, and then Freddie Mercury handed his beer over, and he chugged that one too. So certainly the fans were fired up for it last night. It was a fun night in the building, and I mean, there's something about, especially with the slump that the team had offensively, to wake up and score goals the way they have over the last 3 games. Although I know Rick Bowness would probably prefer, a cleaner 2-1 game than a 6-3 game like last night. But that they had it, and we'll get to Bones's response to the game in a minute, Reem. But overall, I mean, the real positive takeaways. We have to start with the power play. And, I mean, it looked dangerous in the first. They had many different looks, a number of guys shooting the puck. And I'll tell you what, it just looks like this fit. It took a little bit, but Sean Monahan right now, particularly on the power play, well, hell, the numbers speak for themselves. Another 2 goals for the power play, and Sean Monahan has 5 goals in his last 3 games.
Yeah, 2 goals per game on the power play. The last 3 games, and it looked different. And, that first power play in the first period, if they didn't score, it would have been solid before Vilardi tipped in that puck shot by Kyle Connor. But Vilardi, he was looking very dangerous all game in front. And I think this goes back to the Vancouver game when he shot that backhand in. He got that option. He's going back to Scheifele. He had the quick pass to Monahan. Another game, he can either flip it to Connor. So he's doing a lot of options there. And Mark Scheifele, used to be a lot of him just standing around holding the puck, but him and Monahan are playing, one-touch passes back and forth. Monahan's shooting, from the bumper spot there, and Scheifele can go to Vilardi or he can go to Morrissey, and Morrissey's shooting and it's getting tipped in by Vilardi as well. So a lot more options and a lot more movement. And I don't remember them passing into that bumper spot like Scheifele did to Monahan a couple times yesterday to open stuff up and create more shots. So it's certainly looking a lot better than it was because, they had such trouble scoring at all. And now on the power play, it's, 6 power play goals in the last 3 games. Impressive stuff. And, when they asked Vilardi after, is this the new normal for the power play? I was like, well, I hope so. But it certainly looked a lot different in terms of movement and keeping possession and everything. And I didn't even mention the kind of shot Kyle Connor has on the far side there. So it definitely had a lot of options. Yesterday was working really well.
Well, and I mean, I know we kind of focus on Monahan because he is the new guy. But I'll tell you what, I mean, Gabriel Vilardi has been incredibly, incredibly dangerous down low. And, I guess it was the first game against Vancouver on Saturday night where he pulled that low and then snuck the backhand by Demko.
Yeah.
That has given him, I think, a whole new level of confidence playing with the puck down there. And he has composure with it. He pulled it through his legs last night. Fleury had to make a nice save on that. And he's also getting in front of it. He had that beautiful deflection last night as well. And a big, big game for Vilardi with 2 goals and an assist, 4 shots on net. And, you could argue that while Scheifele, Kyle Connor, and Josh Morrissey are doing a great job of puck movement, right now the catalyst for those chances in close are both Monahan and Gabriel Vilardi.
Kind of fun. I don't think Scheifele had a point yesterday, and I thought he was moving the puck really well. He did have a breakaway that he missed on, but Vilardi, he was a big topic here last week. Where are the points been? He hasn't scored a point in, I think it was 5 games, and now he's on a 3-game point streak. He's scoring power play goals. I agree, the confidence there. Since that goal against Thatcher Demko, you're seeing him, get the puck down low and either take it to the net or dish it out to someone for a scoring chance. And he did have that beautiful pass as well off the rush to Kyle Connor, who sniped one. So it's not just with the man advantage for him. They've been trying to jam in this 55, 13, 81 line against Scheifele, Vilardi, Connor, and definitely worked out in their 2 wins. They'll both, that line with big games against Vancouver and against Minnesota last night.
Yeah, listen, Vilardi said himself afterwards he didn't particularly like their line of 5-on-5, and I think you can nitpick. I mean, there was a lot of time where the Wild actually were controlling the play, and maybe score effects is some of that. I mean, the Jets were playing with the lead for the majority of the night, but I think, and we'll hear from Bowness and what he has to say in a minute, the Jets aren't where they were when they were locking down teams night after night after night. They certainly scored a little bit more, and the power play is helping out big time. But I think right now this is at a point in the season where their focus is going to be getting back to that 60-minute defensive structure that is, as I mentioned earlier, provided the foundation for the wins that they've had so far this year. Logan Stanley did fight Middleton last night. And, you sort of mentioned that was a weird play. I'm not sure that Scheif didn't catch a rut or something like that. Middleton was getting 2 minutes. But he did. It certainly didn't seem like that was a vicious or an aggressive move by Middleton trying to hurt Scheifele. That being said, one of your star players, we certainly know the way the opponents react when something happens on purpose or not to one of their star players. So I guess what had happened is he was sort of literally making sure Scheifele was okay. Stanley said something to him and challenged him, and that was all it took for Middleton, who completely turned around and was quite eager to get into a fight with big 6'7" Logan Stanley, considering his history with the Minnesota Wild. And I will say, Remo, it ended up as one of the more bizarre tangos that we've seen, and that Stanley had the reach, got a couple shots in, and in the building, it looked like Middleton just dropped him at the end with the short right. But on further review, it was one that didn't come close to catching. It was just an epic flinch, but unbelievably, Middleton never really landed a punch, and yet he looked like he actually won the fight.
Yeah, strange play because you're watching the game and, Scheifele goes into the boards and you're really surprised to see a Minnesota Wild player making sure Mark Scheifele is okay. And then he's like, "Oh, you want to fight me now? Sure." And it was so delayed, like they were getting up but hey, sure, nice tilt. And, hockey fighting is strange, Huss, because they're wearing helmets, they're wearing visors. The area you can actually connect on someone's face without breaking your hand, which you might even still break your hand on a guy's face, very, very small. So they're swinging punches, and it looks like Logan Stanley goes down. But yes, on further review, I don't know if Middleton did a fake punch or he swung and Logan Stanley tried to dodge it and fell, but it looked like there were some big punches connecting. But yes, I don't think there was much connecting by anyone happening in this fight.
I had to break down the video earlier. I went to hockeyfights.com. It was the featured fight on the website and went through it, realizing that Middleton never landed a punch, and yet he still has been declared the winner by 71% of the viewers of it. But that was pretty much it for the any extracurriculars that everyone expected last night. And I think bottom line, you had there. It looks like he took a pretty heavy shot, but no, he was just using his 6'7" frame, I guess, to dodge it. Bottom line is, good for him to stand up for it. I know some people thought it was a really unnecessary fight. I sort of disagree. I mean, we said, hey, Stan, you're coming in the lineup tomorrow. You need to be physical. You need to be a presence. And I'll tell you what, considering what happened and what could have happened to Mark Scheifele, love the fact that he challenged Middleton, stepped up for him. And, listen, was it that memorable fight? No, not at all. But in some ways, maybe that in itself cooled down some of the temperature that everyone expected to be elevated going into the game because of the history between these teams. Shout out, geez, pushing 500 in chat. Welcome, everyone. If you haven't already, hit that thumbs up button and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We're going to get to some of Bones' comments in just a moment. But before we do that, hey, big shout out to everyone that picked up tickets for the Winnipeg Whiskey Festival event that we're going to be involved in a week from Thursday, February 29th, the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame. It is sold out. If there are a couple of late tickets that come available, we will let you know, and we'll give them first dibs to WS Tiers. But going to be a lot of fun. I had a couple people come up to me at the game last night saying they got tickets and they're really looking forward to it. So we're going to be sipping some great whiskey, learning about it, and watching the Dallas Stars and the Jets go at it at the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame next Thursday, the 29th. Big thanks to Canadian Club, the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame, and the Whiskey Fest for including us and our viewers in it. And we'll look forward to seeing everybody there. Of course, when you pop by your local Manitoba liquor marts, make sure you look for our favorite Canadian Club, Canada's favorite Canadian whiskey, and all their favorites, including the rye, 100% rye, the original, and the CC 12 year. And remember to always drink responsibly. Shout out to the gang down at Manitoba Battery as well. As we've told you, not too long before Manitoba Battery opens up their second location in town in the south side of the city over on Dovercourt for even more added convenience for Manitoba Battery customers. I mean, what's been driving their business for a long time is the fact that they've got batteries for literally everything at the best prices in town, period. Beating the pants off the big box stores, and they'll deliver it to you for free. That's right, free with any purchase over $60 inside the perimeter of Winnipeg. For all your battery needs, go to manitobabattery.com, 204-783-8787. And you can always visit them at 1026 Logan Avenue and very shortly over on Dovercourt Road. And guys, if you need to clean it up, need to maybe get a little work done on the salad, there's only one place to. Well, there's actually 8. Modern Man Barbershop, conveniently located with 8 locations around Winnipeg, including their newest locations on Pembina Highway or Plessis Road. Modern Man has you covered with a variety of grooming services, including great haircuts, beard shaping, shaves, color services, and more. The easiest and best way to make an appointment and book your look is to go to modernmanbarber.com and give them a follow on Instagram as well over at Modern Man Barbershop. But back to the game. Again, we're going to break this down. I got a lot to ask Murat about coming out of really this weekend and last night's win. But let's hear from Bones first, and then we're going to pop over to True North, and Norva Riddell is going to jump on to tell us about the We're All In campaign, try to get the team back to where they need to be season ticket-wise, including looking forward to an exciting playoff run that awaits us at the end of 82. But back to post-game from last night. Rick Bowness obviously pleased with what he has seen from the sudden resurgence of the Jets' power play, which is 6 for their last 11.
We said all along that from the start of camp through, we just didn't have a chance to put Gabe and KC and Mark together because of all the injuries. So, and obviously Sean's been a perfect fit for the bumper. So, it's nice to see. You can see the confidence growing with them. The puck's moving, they're making great plays, and the puck's going in the net. So. We've waited a long time, but again, it's give the guys credit because they stayed with it, and they just need a little time to build some chemistry.
All right, so Bones very pleased, and I believe they said it's one of the hottest stretches the Jet power play has had in years. I think we can all agree they were very much due for how dry it had been leading into this last sort of burst of success. This is a big game for both teams. Bones, I think, liked the start, did not like so much a very sloppy second period where the Jets, were it not for Laurent Brossoit, probably wouldn't have escaped with their lead. Here's what Bones had to say about getting things going, getting up early, and then getting away from it a little bit in period two.
We had a really good first. So, but again, that's all self-inflicted in Minnesota. You saw plays at the blue line that we don't normally make, and we're making changes, and they're getting breakaways. So the second period was just it was sloppy. It was just bad puck management. But again, give the guys credit because they responded in the third and started to play. But our overall 5-on-5 game it was so good in Vancouver. Right, for 60 minutes. We'll get it back.
And a little easier to focus on getting it back after a win in which you score 6 than if you had lost, Reem. But I'm sure you would agree that, if Laurent Brossoit hadn't been as solid as he was, especially in the first 40, but that second period in particular, we may be having a different conversation. I have a feeling Bones maybe wouldn't have been as understanding with how his team got away from it in that period.
Yeah, Laurent Brossoit, very solid. I don't know if he's in the right spot, or it seemed like every time the Wild had a chance, it would hit him. If you want to look at some of the advanced numbers, expected goals for Minnesota was 3.94, and actual goals was 3. So you do a little math, 0.94 goals saved above expected. That's pretty good. And there were some questions. We got, why is Hellebuck starting against Calgary? They should be saving him for the rivalry game against Minnesota. But I think that, one, they always start with the Hellebuck on the first game of back-to-back. But two, I think they have confidence in Brossoit. His numbers on this year looking very strong after maybe a shaky, first couple of games. And I kind of wonder what's going to happen here, because they have 2 opponents that coming up that you would traditionally start your backup against in Chicago and Arizona, but they are back-to-back games, a Friday and a Sunday. And just on the year, Brossoit has up to 920 save percentage, 228 goals against, 8-4-2 record. That's pretty good here from your number 2 goalie.
Yeah, his numbers, he didn't have a great start to the season. Since then, he has been awesome. And I'm not sure that there is a starting position out for him next year somewhere in the National Hockey League. But I'll tell you what, if there's a situation where it is somewhat up in the air, it would be great to see, for Loren's sake, to get a chance to legitimately compete for a starting goaltending job, because he certainly has done the Jets for the Winnipeg Jets this year, and they are quite appreciative of that. Adam Lowry's line had a big one. You mentioned he got off the schneid with a couple of assists. Mason Appleton scored a huge goal, 14 seconds after the opening goal to put the team up 2-0 and give them, a real good feeling and obviously a nice cushion. Here's what Bones had to say about the Lowry line and their contribution to last night's win.
Their job is to play against the top line, and they did a great job on that tonight. They're the other team at that top line on Minnesota. They got some great talent over there, and they had chances when Adams' line wasn't on the ice. So, but they're doing that. We always like to come back with them right after we score. They score. Like, this is a very reliable line. They're a heavy line. They're hard to play against, and they have played very well against Minnesota. That line, so you go back to the last couple of games, they've scored some big goals against Minnesota. So they rise to the challenge.
It was a real strong game by that line, and we often talk about what this line is doing, what the other line is doing, and making comparisons. Bones mentioning that their matchup last night was Eriksson, Ek, Kaprizov, and Boldy, who had been arguably the hottest line. Well, certainly if you looked at their last game, with 2 of their players having hat tricks and 6-point nights. That was a big challenge, and they got them up early on that first shift right after that goal, Remo, and really hung in there and played a big role in the Jets' win.
Yeah, and those guys have been, pretty solid and even chipping in offensively with Mason Appleton wiring a shot short side. I mean, right after you score, they're on the ice. And Appleton, I think that was a shot he tried the game before that went off the post, and he thought it was in. And yesterday, through a screen, connected, and those guys are going to be solid, bringing their physical play, and they're on at the end of the game as well, Huss, sealing it with an empty netter.
Yes, indeed. Nice to see Nino get one because he had been stone cold. I'll say this, maybe there was no fights, but I would have really loved him to wind up and take a slap shot into that empty net. That missed opportunity?
Huge missed opportunity. If you want to put an exclamation point on a win against a division rival, it's been established. You wind up and take a giant slapper, and I don't think Nino has that personality. I'm not sure if maybe there'll be someone on the Jets to do it, but you got to stick it to him, and there is no better way to stick it to a division rival than just taking Ridley Greig. He only hit like 70 on that slapper. You got to hit at least
Ben
80.
Sherratt, Mr. 107.
Someone's got to do it and then show the miles per hour, because you can track that now with this NHL Edge tracking. They track every shot. So
how fast was
Nino,
the netter?
He messed up. He's probably gonna have to pay a fine to the team fund after for not hitting. Like, just bad etiquette for the team. So
quick note on Appleton. That was Appleton's 10th goal of the season. He's got 10 goals and 24 points on the year. He plus 11. Playing in tough matchups with the Adam Lowry line. I know he's got cold there for a little while, and at times has been off his game, or maybe not as effective, but really nice season Appleton's putting together, being part of that line with Niederreiter and with Adam Lowry. And it wasn't lost upon me. Dubois did score twice last night.
Yeah.
But at that point when Appleton scored, he was in a dead heat, tied at 24 points with Pierre-Luc Dubois, our old pal, PLD.
I was just pulling up the stats because I did see people mentioning that, Appleton, he's got 10 goals, 14 assists for 24 points. Dubois and Byfield connected. Byfield with a highlight reel
goal. Dude, that goal was incredible.
Yeah. But Dubois, now he's got 26 and 54, 13 goals, 13 assists. So, I mean, it's hard for any Jet to do anything without being compared to the guy they traded away to make room. So it's something we'll keep our eye on all season. But shout out to Mason Appleton, 10 goals. He's 2 away from his career high set with the Jets in 2021, and he's almost at a career high for points as well. So I thought
he was really good on the forecheck too yesterday, and even on the PK, he made a couple plays where got control of the puck, protected it, got it out. It was a real strong game for Appleton last night, as what you could say for the entire line. Back to Brossoit though for a minute. I mean, he really did keep the Jets in that game, keep the Jets in the lead in the second period. Bones had some praise for his netminder last night as well.
He was outstanding. I mean, some of those saves he made in the second one, we got a little loose. He was the difference. He kept us in the game and let us get our game back, which we did in the third. So, again, give the guys credit. But when you're not playing well and we're getting a little loose, then he made the big saves. We talk a lot about timely goals, timely saves. He made enough tonight.
Best news for Jet fans, though, as we've talked about over this last kind of 5-6 days, has been the complete 180 in the fortunes of the power play. And Gabriel Vilardi has been a big part of that. Bones talked about Vilardi and just how dangerous he's looked down low on the power play as of late.
So he's very good down there, and he's very patient with the puck, and he does see what the options are. So we'll give him a lot of credit, because some guys just panic with the puck and they may move it too quick, but he's taking advantage of what they're giving him. If he can walk across and give that little flip, he's taking it. If not, he's making a play to the mark or back to Sean, and he's always looking for KC, that back door. So he's very good down by the net, which we saw in training camp. We just haven't had a chance to put them all together.
Of course, the other guy that has been absolutely red hot in the last 3 games scoring goals is Sean Monahan, who had the natural hat trick in Calgary, bookended by 1-goal performances in Vancouver and last night. Bones was asked about Kevin Cheveldayoff's role in resuscitating the power play and bringing in Monahan, and how well Monahan has fit in with that PP1 unit.
That's what he's done. He's done a very good job of finding those guys, and good players, but just as important, good people. And they want to be in Winnipeg, and that's what we love about that. But so we give Kevin and his staff a lot of credit for that. They've done a really good job. Sean Monahan's a perfect fit for us. You saw right away last year when Nino and Vladdy came in how easily they fit into the crew. It's a good locker room. It's a good dressing room, and they make everyone feel welcome. You got to bring the right guys in with the right temperament and the right abilities, and Chevy's done that. So I'll give him a lot of credit.
There's Rick Bowness, head coach of the Winnipeg Jets, and one more from Bones on the overall power play. We sort of focused in on what Vilardi's been doing and what Monahan's been doing, but Bones commented on how at times everyone in the power play has had looks and have been dangerous.
Well, a lot of it has to do with Sean. He watches the reads he makes. He knows when to be high. It opens up a shot. He knows when to go low, which opens up KC. So he's making the right reads. But there's a big difference now when they're just moving the puck and they're taking what the penalty killers are giving them. Because we do have lots of options, and we're still, KC's a big threat over there. So they got to cheat on him a little bit, which opens up some of the other options.
All right, so there's a wrap on a pretty fun night at Canada Life Center. The Jets get back into the win column, beating their arch rival, the Minnesota Wild, 6-3. Move on to Chicago Friday night, and then back at home on Sunday against the struggling Arizona Coyotes. Don't forget, that is a 5 p.m. game. Now, I'm looking forward to having Murat jump on in about 15 minutes. We'll get Murat's take on last night's game. We'll also dive in a little bit more on, the production of the lines, how they're faring right now. We haven't talked a lot about Ehlers and Perfetti, a quieter game, although they did, I thought, had a much better third period last night. So we'll get to all of that. But listen, throughout the year, there has been a lot of talk about attendance dating back to a slow start early on coming out of that Kings game. And, we've certainly talked about it on this program, and I don't think it's a secret to anyone that True North's been working hard behind the scenes trying to prepare themselves for a big push to get back to 13,000 and get this team where it needs to be moving into the future. Well, as of yesterday, they just launched the We're All In campaign, which has a first-time opportunity to get in with tickets and for next season and get priority playoff tickets. So to talk about that, before we get back to the games, let's welcome in Norva Riddell from True North for the latest on the Winnipeg Jets moving forward and their upcoming campaign. Norv, great to see you. Nice night at the rink last night. Full house and a big win for the club.
Very nice. Nice way to start the morning, Huss, to be talking to you after that.
Well, hey, I'll tell you what, it's always fun coming into work, whether you're downtown or doing what we're doing after a win. But I know, listen, the team's going to win some, they'll lose some. We've got a really exciting rest of the season coming, as well as playoffs. But I know you and the team there have been working very hard behind the scenes, getting ready for what's to come, meaning the playoffs, as well as next season. We're going to kind of get into the We're All In campaign, but fill us in on the last few months and what's been happening to get us ready to kind of launch this and hopefully move back towards that 13,000 number that, of course, established the team in 2011.
Yeah, so we've done lots of work over the last period of time, and it's lots of diligence, lots of listening, I would say. We've been doing some focus groups with our season ticket members, having conversations with our season ticket member advisory council, our fan forum group, general conversations with our season ticket members through email, phone, in-game. And so it's helped us really steer a lot of the outcome of what we're doing now. So it's been exciting. It's been a great learning experience. And I would say the last couple of years have been a great learning experience for all of us. So we're trying to be very attentive and responsive in how we're moving forward.
As a season ticket member myself, got a real nice package for the club last week. With a letter from Mark Chipman, sort of, outlining the plan and the direction of the club. And I mean, I think I said as much candidly, it's very important for the team and the organization to sort of get back to where they were. And there's been a lot of hard work happening that's led us to this point. But kind of before we get to next season, we have got a team that's doing real well this year. And I know people are really excited for playoffs. And I think the situation is maybe given an opportunity to include the playoffs in trying to lead us into next year in maybe a more healthy situation in the stands.
You are exactly right. And so what we've done is in anticipation of 24-25, and then of course in anticipation of our playoff hockey that will start in the coming weeks, we have launched a deposit campaign, and that deposit campaign allows fans to put a deposit on tickets for 24-25. However, it gives them access to this year's playoffs, guarantees them a seat, which we have learned through all of our discussions with our season ticket members that the playoffs are one of the most coveted benefits of being a season ticket member. Certainly that is the most exciting time of year for us. And so we wanted to create a platform to launch that in our market. So by placing a deposit of $250 per seat, whether or not you're interested in a full or a half or a quarter, that will give you a guaranteed seat at our Stanley Cup playoffs.
When we're talking about the different packages, I have to admit, I mean, having done sold tickets before and all these things, I was blown away at the detail that has been put into the way, everything has really been broken down. Because I think, in the smallest market in this building, you need to have something for everyone. I think it's obvious that, not all fans are in this situation and maybe sit in the Play Now lounge. You've really sort of gone the full gamut here. If you want to maybe speak to a little bit of, the opportunities for people that maybe always thought that, there's no way I could get in on season tickets with a person or two, it's too much, or ones that are looking for even a more premium opportunity that they maybe had before.
Yeah, so there's a couple things that you said that are really important to share. So one of the things that we really challenged ourselves with is how do we make the process really simple? So we did want to actually, through this website, make sure that just by placing the deposit, you're telling us that you're interested, which we're super excited about, and then we follow up to find out what your specific interests are. And then there are, as you know, there's lots of different options and price points. So whether or not you want to sit in the lower bowl or the upper bowl, or what your preference is through package size. We've also created some different opportunities in the upper bowl that there's a get-in price for as low as $40 that you could be a season ticket member. So trying to take into consideration that everybody has lots of different circumstances in their life, professionally and personally, and how can we fit into your entertainment options and find something for you that would be a great fit, both with your schedule and priorities.
Yeah, Winnipeg often is a bottom line city, and I think we all know that. Price when you're making purchases like this, everyone is looking, for good value and a good deal there. And I know, individual game tickets. If you just gone up and got one ticket for a Leaf game or something like that, you might be going, "Whoa!" Speak to, if you could, just how much savings there are for people. I mean, as part of the season ticket benefits or, half season and quarter season packages, that I think people kind of need to know about when realizing that going that extra mile to either get together in a group or get into a package puts you in a much better situation when it comes to cutting the check.
Well, that's true, right? Because if you buy a season ticket package with us, not only can you buy tickets, we call them package additionals, that you can buy individual tickets for games at package price throughout the season, you're actually saving up to 34% off your single game tickets. So when you buy tickets on a game by game basis, you are absolutely paying more than you are as a season ticket member. So again, that's ticket savings would be the next benefit associated to what people value the most is the ticket savings and then the access to playoffs. So that is an important component. So even if you buy a season ticket membership as a quarter or a half, it's the same. You're still saving money, and there's definite value in there. And then you layer in the benefits that you get associated to savings off food and beverage or savings off of jet skier. So up to 25% off food and beverage or up to 20% off jet skier.
Oh, and as someone that utilizes the app quite often, and will tell you that 25% off for particular items comes in very handy on a game by game basis. There is a lot more though than just saving a few bucks. I mean, at the same time, maybe talk about some of the other things that the team is trying to do for their package holders, but also the importance of those package holders and people coming back all in, if you will, to get the team where they need to be in the future.
Yeah. So in addition to those, and I can't imagine what your fan favorite is off that discount. Might be
popcorn for sure.
Popcorn? Yeah. So creating unique experiences, so contests and experiences for our fans to give them greater access to our team. So as an example, we just did a photo day last week and invited season ticket members to come and spend time with our team. And our team was located throughout the venue and had the opportunity, our customers had the opportunity to take pictures and interact with our players. And they had a great time. And I know our customers did too. I think when you talk about the fan part of it in our venue, the players themselves would acknowledge that the fans are such an important part of the game experience, how they interact at the game, their cheering, their chants, the fun that they have. The players feed off of that. And they often talk about what an asset that is, even when they're playing an opponent like last night, right? Our fans, they had a great time and they just are integral to the energy in the building. How we produce the game, the music, how they participate. Like it's a big part of what we do.
Norva Riddell's with us from True North discussing the We're All In campaign that's launching right now, which will get you in for the Stanley Cup playoffs with a deposit on a package for next season. Let's just get back to kind of how this works right now. I know there's a lot of people that are very excited for playoff hockey, and I know we've talked about it all season long, really since the start, about how important it is, and to hopefully get back to where the team had been in the stands. For folks that are listening to this or talking to friends about it or have been discussing it and thinking about next season, fill them in on what they need to do right now to count themselves in and count themselves in for the playoffs as well.
Perfect. Okay, so they would go to winnipegjets.com/deposit. And through that process, the website will bring up the very simple explanation about how you can reserve your seats for 24-25. By placing your deposit, a screen will come up and ask you how many deposits you would like to place. And then we will, in fact, follow up with you and learn more about what your preferences, your seating preferences, your ticket package preferences. It's easy. It's $250 a seat, regardless of the package that you're interested in. And full and half seasons guarantees you the playoffs, and then the quarter, it gives you playoff priority. So, which would mean that you will, in fact, get tickets before anything goes on sale to the general public.
One thing that I learned that the advisory council was doing, and when we had some guests on earlier this year, was, I think they called it like a Tinder for tickets or something like that. I can't remember what the exact terminology was. But I think we all know, I mean, having season tickets historically has gotten you the best seats possible. You get a little bit of a better discount. It gets you the best price. I mean, you're maxing out on your benefits through everything with seasons. I know there's folks that listen to our show that have talked about potentially coming together. They've met through kind of our platform, but if folks would like to consider potentially sharing with other fans on that, is there options to get into, say, I'm looking for season tickets and I'd like to be in a quarter or a half on seasons and kind of put together that way? Or is the focus just simply get in a half season and then potentially could move to a season ticket if you have someone else that wants to jump on as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. So share partners are quite common with our Winnipeg Jets fans. So, time and resources, coming to that many games. So share partners is very popular. It's called, the platform that we're launching is going to be launched April 1st, and it will do exactly that. So if you were looking for a partner, through that platform, you're going to register, and then we're going to bring partnerships together, people together. In the short term, I would suggest if somebody is interested and they want to let us know that they're looking for a share partner, we can 100% proactively gather that information and then help bring those partnerships together when we get to the beginning of April. But 100%, if you're interested and you know that you want to participate in a package, but you might need a partner to do it, let us know, and we will help with that.
Well, and I'll tell you what, to the regulars in the WST chat and the Discord as well, we can it'd be cool to see some of the people that have expressed interest on getting back in packages to kind of do it together. And I will say this as someone that has share partners. There's some other intangible benefits to it. First of all, drafting the games is one of the most fun days of the year, right? When everything's going on. But, if something comes up where you can't make a game, you already have sort of a built-in opportunity to potentially trade a game or work around. And obviously, it's a lot of fun there as well. Norva, I have to say, for all the hard work that's happening right now, the boys on the ice have probably been helping as well. I mean, are you feeling the momentum heading into the second half of the season and the playoffs at all levels of the organization?
We absolutely are. You know us all well enough to know too that we're all just really focused one game at a time, and you're not. We know what the net end result is. We know what the goal is, but we just want the team to continue to be successful, because funny how winning and the collective success of getting people excited about coming to games, it all goes hand in hand. So yes, there is excitement, and it's fun that there's such a confidence in the team. They've had a really great season, and games like last night or the game against Vancouver on Saturday night really get you excited for what playoff hockey could look like. So yes, very much so. And I think too, I always love how playoffs really bring our community together. So it just doesn't matter where you work or what you do, how excited everybody gets about playoff hockey, wearing white at the streets, businesses. It's an exciting time, and it's great for our city.
Well, and it's been an exciting team all year long, and I know that there is still work to be done, and we don't want to get to that point yet. That being said, I know people are getting the whites ready and hopefully getting ready to get back all in with the Jets. Again, it's winnipegjets.com/deposit. If you go to the website, you'll see the link. Norva, thanks so much for coming in. And obviously, I think everyone that has a stake in, the team and our city wants to see us get back to the full buildings that we enjoyed for so many years at the beginning. And I'll tell you what, we've got a team that's certainly doing their part right now. So we'll look forward to the rest of this year, the playoffs, and again, we'll catch up later on this year and throughout the campaign to hopefully help out, get the word out on the importance of this and what awaits Jet fans if they want to make a deposit and get back on board.
Thank you so much, Huss. Really, really appreciate it.
Okay, great stuff. Really do appreciate Norva jumping on today. And as we've sort of talked about this and kicked this around in the Discord and, in the chat. But if there are WST listeners that would maybe like to connect with each other, maybe get some seats in and around the same area, we can certainly facilitate that. So you can fire us a message, anyone that's interested on that, and we'll sort of put groups together, and hopefully we can kind of do our part to help the team get back to where they need to be. And most importantly, get ready for the playoffs and put the whites on, and hopefully have a nice long playoff run here in the spring in Winnipeg. Again, it's winnipegjets.com/deposit. I know Earl James is mentioning that is a deposit that goes towards your package. It's not a deposit for the right to get seats next year. just in case that wasn't clear. Listen, Murat's coming up. We've got a lot to get to with Murat. I'm really looking forward to this next segment because he's got a great new piece in The Athletic on a number of topics that I know have been burning up the chat rooms lately. So we'll get to that coming up right away. Do have to give a big thank you to the gang over at Wallace & Wallace for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Of course, they win the fencing and overhead door specialists in Winnipeg since 1946 are at Wallace & Wallace. You've seen their fences and trucks all over the city. We've seen a lot more as the snow melts and we get closer to spring. But particularly right now, although it hasn't been exceptionally cold, the ups and downs of the winter put the most stress on your garage door. And the right time to prevent downtime this winter is now. You can give Wallace & Wallace a call to book your inspection and maintenance service call today. And not to mention, if you're looking for a new overhead garage door, they do have the largest selection in Manitoba as the Clopay dealer. But for all your residential and commercial overhead door sales and service needs, there's only one name or two you need to know, and that is Wallace & Wallace. I was just talking with a friend about the wedding we were at on last week, and the guys were looking great because they all headed down to F Apparel and got their suits before heading down south of the border. F Apparel is the go-to spot for incredible menswear, custom made to fit at great prices, with custom suits beginning at $400, along with chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and an incredible selection of menswear accessories. Don't forget, we got a 15% discount for wedding parties. So if you are getting married or in a wedding party this year, don't waste your money renting tuxes and bringing them back. Talk to the guys at F about great deals on suits for everybody. Pop by and see them at 190 Smith Street downtown. And you can always make an appointment or find out more online at EPHapparel.com. And hey, a big cheers to our friends at Little Brown Jug. Great to get back to the rink last night, and I did see quite a few generic lagers in 1919s, and fans hands down around section 124 in that lower bowl. It's really turned into a great spot to meet fans and friends at intermission. Of course, generic, you can find it at your local Manitoba Liquor Mart at Beer Store for the low price of just $19.99 for the 8-pack of Tall Boys. But I do suggest, if you have the opportunity, pop down and see our friends at Little Brown Jug in person at the Brewery and Tap Room on William Avenue. You get to try them all, including many small batch brews that aren't available anywhere else, and take home your favorite Little Brown Jug products, not to mention the great merchandise as well. You can also check them out online at littlebrownjug.ca with local delivery options. All right, let's get back to business. Back to last night's game. Look ahead for the Winnipeg Jets and a current state of the union with our pal Murat Atesh. Murat, it's great to see you again, my man. How are you?
Doing well. Great to be back. Great to see you.
Well, I appreciate it. Missed you guys last week. And by the way, how did your return to the ice go? We were all quite intrigued as to the long layoff from your glory days back in Pinawa and pulling out the old blades and getting back at it recently.
Yeah, maybe should I bring those out? Should I show the fans?
Why not? Why not? These they still get the job done.
I want to show you the Bauer Air 70s from the late 90s that I wore as a 15-year-old playing for the Whiteshell Wolverines, a 16-year-old in Toronto, and this weekend as a much older than that fella on the outdoor rink. I tried hard. I tried really hard. I had a good attitude. I didn't cheat a back check. Oh, shoot, there it is. Yeah, there's my team. I'm right in there in the middle, grinning like an idiot ear to ear because, man, did I ever miss that feeling. It had been so long. And,
how's the rust?
Miss it. Yeah. But you know what? A couple of shot blocks, a couple of fresh dents on those skates, a stick lift as a winger. I'll back check all the way to that post at my 3 kilometers an hour. And we had a great time.
Good to hear. And I'll tell you what, as long as the ice is out and skatable on right now, it's pretty gorgeous to do that. We'll see whether it lasts through this weekend. Looks like some crazy temperatures on a couple days and then getting cold again right back afterwards. Let's get we can kind of talk about last night's game as well, but the Jets had scored 7 goals in 7 games. I mean, I remember being away and watching that second and third period of the San Jose game and wondering when the heck was something going in. There's been a lot of good and some not so good over the last 3 games. Most notably, the power play has not just done something, it has exploded. But there has been a yin to the yang. What's your overall thoughts on the last 3 games, starting with the big win in Vancouver to last night's win over Minnesota, with that ugly game in Calgary sandwiched in between?
Yeah, they beat the top team, and that's good. They beat a huge rival based on what's happened this season and many before it. That's good. They're winning games. They're accumulating points, everything that you like. And the story is the exact opposite of what it used to be, right? The defensive structure is, I'm not going to say it's gone, but Winnipeg's falling short of its defensive structure. And I might even say they're falling further short of it now than when they were losing games. They're really getting away with it, or from it, with some offensive blue line turnovers, some poorly timed line changes, and then the middle of the ice in front of their goal has been available to teams in transition, which is a relatively new thing. And yet they're winning because their offense has suddenly come to life. The power play has exploded, and this is a brand new story in Winnipeg, which is kind of fun, honestly, when things turn on their head like this. I remember our first chat about Sean Monahan. I think it had just happened. And, I was saying, I don't think one player is going to single-handedly turn Winnipeg's power play fortunes. And, one of the big joys of figuring out what happens in sports is watching and waiting and seeing. These last few games, 2 power play goals a game for that top unit. You've got Gabriel Vilardi looking so dangerous beside the net. He's got a lot of variety and options that we can get into because I've been studying that at length. Sean Monahan offering Scheifele a couple of different release points. He's getting involved in the offense and getting onto rebounds that Kyle Connor shoots too. So everybody's got a piece of it and they're looking good. It's just not the way that they've won for most of the year. And dare I say, it's probably a less sustainable way. Well,
and again, we can dive into last night in a second. Just going back to Monday afternoon, it was sort of shocking, especially the way, you get that natural hat trick from Monahan right out the gate, a 2-goal lead against a team that had been struggling. Even when the Jets were trailing in the game in the third period, Calgary looked like the hungrier team. They had it together more. And the amount of rush chances, they might have had more in that game than teams did against the Jets in an entire month earlier this year.
Yeah, one of the pillars of Winnipeg Jets defense is nothing for free. And believe me, Calgary was getting an awful lot. And, you can look at that Oliver Shillington goal. I mean, he scores once every several years, it seems. And he gets a free path to the net because they try a stretch pass. Okay, it doesn't work. But then you got 3 forwards caught behind Shillington. And I don't know if they're thinking that, okay, well, those 2D, they've got it. I don't know if they think that this isn't a brilliant offensive player, so maybe it's just not gonna happen. I don't know if they were tired. Actually, I can't remember the shift length in that situation. There could be lots of reasons, but the back check was not good, and you've usually seen good back checks from Winnipeg Jets this year. The change was poorly timed, and that's rare. It happens every once in a while, but not that badly. And Shillington carves right through them for the goal. And it's crazy because that's not the only time something like that happened in that game. Winnipeg also got away with it last night. I mean, Connor gives the puck away, or Rossi steals it from him at the offensive line, and nobody's tracking back. The defense have changed. It's just an awkwardly bad time. They believe the puck's going to get deep. It doesn't happen. So now Rossi's got an uncontested breakaway. These aspects, and Calgary was all over it, and credit to them, but that was the worst defended game of Winnipeg's season in Calgary. To bounce back and get the win is going to be massive for the Jets as they try to right things. But talking to Gabriel Vilardi last night, to add one final thought to this, is this is an inch forward. It's a step forward. It's not like they've gotten all the way back to the game that they want to play.
Well, I agree. And listen, it's a lot easier to talk about this after the team scores 6 and wins in the fashion that they did. But I'm sort of with Rick Bowness. I'm not sure we're having the same conversation if LB doesn't play the way that he did, particularly in the second period where they did get away from it, and it looked more like the team that was defending or not defending Monday against Calgary. But there were some ebbs and flows to last night's game. I mean, what was your take on the Jets' performance overall before we sort of dive into some of the minutia of all of it?
Yeah, I mean, great to the power play generating chances leading up to that goal. Lovely pass backdoor from Kyle Connor to Gabriel Vilardi. But that was Vilardi's third scoring chance in like an 8-second span. I'm not sure if he got credits for shot on goal because I think some of them just missed or were deflected or what have you. Everything was going right. And that's something that you like from that group. That I plenty of time for. I think one of the case studies that really exemplifies how it was kind of a bit of both things. Kyle Connor scores a really beautiful goal on a Jets rush early in the second period. That's at the end, though, of a shift that's pushing 90 seconds. I think it's like 78 or something like that, if I've got my memory right on this. And Minnesota was all over the Jets' top line in Winnipeg zone. There's missed shots, there's shots on goal, there's proper scoring chances, there's chances to have scoring chances. Most of that shift is Winnipeg actually kind of getting fed a little bit. But they hang in there. Brossoit makes the saves he needs to make. And then at the end of the shift, where I think a lot of Jets would be encouraged to get that puck deep and back off, you've got some really excellent transition offense when players should be tired. They make a couple of good passes. Connor scores a beautiful goal. And I think that's everything that's good and bad about the Jets right now is you've got that top skill producing again. Connor's among many of the top players who are on fire offensively, but you're also bleeding chances against, and you just wonder how long that can last.
You know, it is whether it's our show, the post-game shows, your columns, there has been a lot of discourse about the makeup of the Jets' top six right now, post Sean Monahan. And the funny thing is Monahan hasn't really been a big part of most of those discussions. It's surrounding Kyle Connor, it's surrounding Nikolai Ehlers, and it is surrounding Cole Perfetti. Just recent, like let's go back to this last week based on the good and the bad that we've seen. How are you feeling about both lines right now, where they're at going into practice tomorrow and Friday's game against Chicago?
I think that they're not particularly working, and yet they're scoring. Most of that's on the power play, and almost all of that is the top line as a result, although obviously Monahan on that second line at even strength. I think at 5-on-5, they genuinely have not been good. You heard Gabriel Vilardi say that. You heard Rick Bowness say that. I'll tell you that too. And I think the thing that I've learned in this last week, or had reminded to me more than anything, it's something I've always known, but it's just really getting hammered home right now. Public perception depends on pucks going in the net. So, for example, the top line, I think, largely is getting love, though there are critics who don't like their defensive metrics. And I think a lot of that, I'm not going to point to every place that you're hearing about how great they are, but a lot of that is because the puck's going in for them. And, Connor gets his 5-on-5 goal. The power play production has been there. And the defensive miscues don't get talked about as much, I think. Perfetti and Ehlers are eating it right now. And I went back to sort of just check, because I was playing hockey on Saturday. Let's watch the shifts isolated and just go zoom in on it. Just check to see how bad Perfetti and Ehlers were on Saturday against Vancouver. And the thing that I learned was that, yeah, they were bad. They did struggle to get the puck out of their blue line. They did struggle to keep the puck in deep. They were worthy of criticism defensively based on puck management in that game. And every once in a while, it didn't just look like a bad decision, but there were mistakes in execution that looked clumsier than either of those players traditionally looked. That was a game that deserved criticism from them. You also look at Kyle Connor chasing Tyler Myers very half-heartedly after Gabriel Vilardi gives Myers the puck on a stretch pass through the middle of the ice on the breakout, and that puck goes in. But because the top line produces, you don't hear that same level of criticism. And I think there's two things that I take away from that. One is, okay, yeah, if you want to make any complaints about ice time or getting minutes, and certainly Perfetti and Ehlers have not gotten a lot of minutes. Their minutes are going down. If you want to complain, you got to produce. You have to outscore whatever you're giving up, and they're not doing that. They deserve some criticism for that. That's for real. Connor and Scheifele and Vilardi are producing, so that makes up for that. Great. That is known. But Winnipeg needs better from both of those lines in so many ways if they're going to return to that top-tier defensive team and pretty good offensive team that they've been so far.
Yeah, I mean, using the Vancouver example, and I'm with you. I mean, it was not a strong game for Ehlers and Perfetti, but the Kyle Connor play on the Matt Myers goal was such a tough look. I mean, a tough enough look that at the intermission, the broadcast isolated Connor with the big blue thing around him as he sort of watched Myers go in. And I do wonder what was either said on the bench or potentially at the intermission to that line, because, obviously they had that great goal to put them ahead where Scheifele took the hit, the beautiful pass from Connor to the tap into Vilardi, and then the insurance goal. Mark has a huge game with 1 goal and 3 assists, and Connor, gets on the score sheet a couple times in that third period. And I had to think that the feelings post-game, what the coach had to say, might have been significantly different, or maybe should have been significantly different. We don't know what it would have been if the line didn't sort of, and in particular, Connor, sort of get a little bit of redemption by doing what he's paid to do, and that is put up offense.
Yeah, that's it. If you're going to be porous defensively, outscore it. And they did, and they won that game. And that deserves credit, right? It's not all about process and underlying numbers and where the game gets played and all of that. You got to score. You got to put the puck in the net. That's how you win. And they did it, and they won. The problem is when you zoom out and you want to look at that stretch run and say, hey, can Winnipeg beat top teams with its top line getting hemmed in its own zone? And no, they can't. They probably can't, I should say. It hasn't happened yet. The interesting thing, too, is that the Perfetti and Ehlers get sat down after that game on Monday, and they have a meeting with the coach, and it's about puck management. And, I mean, that's absolutely true. They were poor in puck management on Saturday. But does that meeting happen in that same way if they're the ones who produced and led the team to the win? I'm not sure it does. Obviously, it probably doesn't. The top line scored, and that means that the perception changes completely, even though they were often hemmed in as well, just as they were often hemmed in yesterday, but the offense is there once again.
Well, let's just focus in on Ehlers and Perfetti for a minute. What do you make of the funk that both of those players are in? I mean, they are offensive players. There hasn't been a lot of offense. And like there was a few points last night where they just seemed disconnected at times. And, Ehlers, even some of the things that are normally very simple things for him to do, just didn't seem to be clicking lately. Is this just a slump in the middle of a season?
Yeah, I mean, there would be a little bit of that for sure. Like, you can point to Perfetti scoring chances in recent times, and I'll just isolate on him because I can see in my memory's mind right now, I can see the scoring chances. I can see Sean Monahan stealing the puck early on in the offensive zone against Calgary. Was it Calgary? Yes, it was Calgary. Cole Perfetti drives the net and has a wraparound attempt stuffed. I can see Perfetti driving the lane leading up to Monahan's rebound goal. I don't know that he got the stick on the puck to deflect it, but it hit the Flames defender who was on Perfetti in that moment. So he's doing the right thing. Perfetti got kind of criticized for getting rocked, I think, a couple of times against Vancouver. But one of the things that happens right after that is he rushes up the ice for a scoring chance, gets a slap shot off. Again, against Calgary, after getting a heavy hit, he rushes up the ice with Dylan Samberg. He puts a shot, I think it's through Markstrom's armpit, and it just trickles by the post and doesn't go in. It's the same shot Kyle Connor took on the power play that Monahan buried because it's the power play and he's right there on the net, but it doesn't go in. And so it's as if this guy isn't doing anything offensively. He hasn't produced anything offensively in an awfully long time, and that is a problem. It is a concern. It needs to get better. But when the puck is around the net and you're around the net, I think that he's playing better than the perception has. I just can't see – I'm not seeing a tremendous amount of chemistry between him and Nikolai Ehlers right now. They do waste pucks, and I think that when you see that and at the end of the day that there's zeros beside their name mostly – I know Ehlers got an assist – that is a concerning trend. It is something that needs to improve or change.
There's been plenty of folks, and I mean, listen, we have all these conversations and people fire out their takes on Twitter and all that, and it's all fun, and that's part of the discourse that we have as fans and people in the media. There's one person that counts in this equation, and that's Rick Bowness, because he is the shot caller on the bench. How do you think he views these players right now as to where they're at? And listen, we don't need to go down the long list of what Nikolai Ehlers has done for this club and how productive he's been in the past. But right now, and I think a word that you used in your latest piece, which is very key, is trust. Where is that, and how might it be distributed through those 6 forwards that are on the Jets' top 2 lines?
Yeah, and I kind of tee off on this in today's column, so please have a look, please have a read. I think Bowness is having some trouble right now, and I think it's because no one in that top 6, if you accept that Scheifele and Monahan, those lines are the top 6, those 2 lines are not defending well right now. Neither one of them is. One of them is producing offense. So you do need to try to win games. You do need that. If you have a choice between putting your foot on the pedal that gives minutes to the guys who are actually scoring while not defending well versus the guys who are not scoring or defending well, I think it's an easy decision. But overall, his sense of confidence in what he's got going on right now is not high. And you heard that in his postgame after Calgary. You heard that in his postgame last night where he sort of bit his tongue a little bit answering Connor's question about the top line's performance. That is a sign when this is a guy that I'll tell you like it is, or he'll just say nothing or what have you, that he's not pleased with the two-way play of the Winnipeg Jets right now. And now, well, what do you do with that, right? Like he has to try to win games. So you can go back to Scheifele, Ehlers, and Vilardi, which won so much, or you can do with what the Jets are trying to do, and they're forcing a belief in Connor Scheifele, Vilardi based on their offensive ability and based on their preferences, in my opinion, that is not necessarily bearing itself out at 5-on-5. I have time for that because they're so good they could find it, but the reality is they don't have it right now. So Bowness is in a tough spot. Wait it out, see if it gets better, wait it out, see if it gets better, or make changes that end up splitting that line up. Maybe that means splitting Scheifele and Connor, who do want to play together, who Bowness does want to get 20 minutes a night. I think that if Bowness continues to treat that duo and that line as his biggest, most important priority, other things are going to get lost, and I get into that in the piece for sure.
Yeah, the piece is up at The Athletic right now. I know Remis just had it up on the show, and it's a very interesting title: Why the Winnipeg Jets forward deployment double standard threatens the team's foundation. Only one thing I would say on that, and we've talked about it before. I've got a lot of time for Nikolai Ehlers playing on that top line. I will say that to make a coach go that direction, you sort of do need to give them a reason to do. I mean, it can't just be remember what happened 2 months ago. I mean, there is an element of the present right now, and I kind of think that the challenge was maybe laid out to Nikolai Ehlers, and we're still waiting for it to be answered, to be, to show that, we're missing out having you on that line. And I would suggest that by, the way that he's played over the last little while, particularly this 3-game stretch that we're sort of focusing on, that hasn't been there. And until it shows up that way, I'm not sure that that's even a thought in Bowness's mind.
Yeah, you know what? I agree with that, because these decisions don't get made by robots. They don't get made by spreadsheets. They don't get made by the fact that Ehlers has led the Jets in points per minute for years, and the best years Winnipeg has ever had in terms of points per minute are basically him, Blake Wheeler, and Kyle Connor. Like he's been an elite offensive producer, but he hasn't been for the last month. And, many Jets haven't been, but they're coming around. You have to respect the fact that human beings are playing here. Human beings are making the coaching decisions, and you have to give a person a reason that they can defend, a reason that they can believe in. And certainly Ehlers isn't tearing the cover off of the ball so much that there's no excuse to keep him off of the top line. That is a major part of what's going on. I think I still think that even were Ehlers producing, I think Bowness prefers his top line the way that he has it. But again, I guess just repeating myself, it's not charts that make the decisions, it's people. And you got to convince people. If the argument isn't good, and to your point, it hasn't been, there you have it. Like, what are you going to, you're not going to get a reward to go back to a top line that used to work by playing in a way that ends up with tons of giveaways and no offense in the most recent. Like, you need a pretense to make that change.
Well, and you know, the one thing I'll say is, I mean, sometimes changes are made for different reasons. I mean, sometimes a guy is playing lower in the lineup and he's playing so well, you just have to get him out there more, and he sort of barges his way in and takes it. There are other times when everything is so messed up, it's maximum blender time and guys get moved up, and a guy might not be playing particularly well, and the next thing you know, he finds himself on the top line. I guess where we can get to is that, you know, despite defensive structure has sort of been lost over this last couple games for sure, although Bowness was he had a lot of praise for the way his team played against the Vancouver Canucks, that if the top line wasn't scoring the way that they have been, and again, you make a great point that a bunch of it has been on the power play, but if they hadn't had those offensive results and we were still going through that middling time and the defense had fallen off, then at that point, pretty much anything is on the table. But until that happens with players on line two barging their way in, or it's completely off the rails on the top line, which I guess there might be someone that would argue that, but I think the production at the end is what really matters to the coach on a given shift, on a given period, in a given night, that we're probably looking at status quo for a little while. And I do want to ask you about one thing when it comes to the second line, because I think Sean Monahan is there. I think Cole Perfetti is going to be there. When we talk about the options of Ehlers versus Kyle Connor, is Ehlers a better driver of a line himself? Like, how much of that do you think is part of the decision that, you know, when everything is going well, Ehlers is a guy, maybe more so than Connor, despite Connor's gaudy goal numbers, that can be a guy that elevates his teammates and creates more as the offensive catalyst, which I think the idea is that he would be on line number two, potentially with much more beneficial matchups, depending on whether you're at home.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle Connor, let's start with respect on his offensive production and the fact that as much as we can talk about Ehlers being a dominant 5-on-5 scorer, Connor's also really darned good, right? So like I want to make sure that what comes next is prefaced with that. But Connor comes in at the end of the play. Connor comes in as a finisher. Connor is a deadly sniper, and he sort of does depend on other players to do more of the work that gets the puck into that dangerous spot. He can be dangerous in transition. Ehlers is a player whose general impact, his biggest strength, is to get the puck from one end of the ice to the other and then get across that blue line with speed. Once he gets across the blue line with speed, on an Ehlers bad day, he makes chaotic plays, the puck gets turned over, nothing happens. On an Ehlers good day, which the aggregate says there's way more of those, what he ends up doing by attacking with so much speed is he backs defenders off, he creates chaos, he makes decisions that confuse defenders and end up with players out of position, which opens up space for other players. It's why it's why Ehlers, Scheifele, and Vilardi outscored its opposition, didn't out-analytic its opposition. It ran rampant on the scoreboard against its opposition, in part because Ehlers opens up different looks in different lanes. Unpredictable can be good. Now, I think that Ehlers' unpredictability can also challenge line mates. And when they see him make a decision that is a bit confusing and it doesn't work, I think that does create a sense of chaos in a way that doesn't go right. And I think Connor's predictability and his elite finishing is why you've seen so many players argue for him on the top line over the years, like the famous Blake Wheeler, give me the kid when Connor was a rookie. I think that type of thing has continued and played a big role in which one gets which minutes.
Murat, before we go, just kind of moving to an entirely different topic that I know will be discussed heavily over the next few weeks heading into the deadline. We're a few weeks away from the Monahan ad. When you look at where the team is right now, if you're Kevin Cheveldayoff, what are you thinking? And is there a particular target that still might be a priority for Winnipeg before the buzzer goes on the 8th of March?
On paper, Winnipeg's close. On paper, Winnipeg is really close. It could use some defensive help, and I think it might go shopping in that sort of depth aisle of this guy can come in from time to time and play a physical, reliable game, veteran experience, all that sort of stuff without upsetting too much of what it's already got going. It would be fun to watch if they were able to acquire a Chris Tanev type, somebody who can impact the game and play such a hard-nosed version of it, and who is a genuine top four defenseman. We've seen some defensive mistakes from top four defensemen recently, and more insulation would be better, and that would definitely help. On paper, the forwards should theoretically be set, but as we can see, they're not. The chemistry is either not there, the defending is not there, and so now you're wondering, well, okay, is there a veteran top six type who can play a really strong two-way game and help cement things in some way? If you just want to daydream and dream big, that would be the player type to go for. I think most of the improvement available to the Winnipeg Jets right now comes from within, even as I'm certain that Cheveldayoff will continue to shop here on out.
When Rob Mahoney mentioned this name, I was going to bring it up. I mean, I sort of still have the feeling that Rucker McGroarty is going to come in here and be a player before the end of the season. And I don't often say this about prospects, but I think he has the potential to not only be, well, let's just say to be a very pleasant surprise and be a guy that we talked before about not being able to keep a guy off a line or out of the lineup. I know we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves here, but he is a real wild card right now that doesn't cost the Jets any assets that could very well be part of the picture.
If Winnipeg decides that it's willing to commit pro time to him and NHL time to him, I have no doubt that they'll make a full court press when it comes time to sign contracts and what have you. If there's the risk of him just being buried or not getting the opportunities or, being like in the AHL for consecutive years or something like that, if that's what the discussion looks like, I'm not as big on the idea that he would sign. I think that that's kind of the type of discussion that's going to be really important for both sides. And believe me, the Jets are capable of a big full court press, right? Like we saw it with Dylan Samberg a few years ago. It wasn't just Cheveldayoff, but I think Chipman also went to Minnesota to meet with the Sambergs. It's a compelling argument when they want to make it. The one thing I caution against is I have seen over the years so many more versions of fan bases arguing that their top prospect would be a major impact in the playoffs than actual times where it's happened. The level of play between college and the AHL is substantial. The level of play between that and the NHL is substantial as well. I have time for giving people opportunities and believing in his quality because he's got a lot of it. I think that my own take on this is I'm dampering the he'll come in and be a difference maker. I just think that's an awful lot to put on a very young player.
Yeah, it is. I will still take that bet, to be honest with you. I am, and again, maybe I am unreasonably high on McGroarty, but I the more you see what he does, what he has done at every level, the way that he's been playing for Michigan coming out of the World Juniors, a pretty intriguing guy to come in and be another option for them. With a forward group that if you have an extra guy like that you think you can put in a few pieces. There is a guy that's struggling, that's not getting it done. And I think that competition might actually elevate some of the players as well. Murat, love the piece today. Must read, folks. Get over to The Athletic and check it out right away. We'll look forward to catching up with you next week. Enjoy the weekend and the game on the road on Friday. And, of course, Sunday back home.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for having me. Good to see you again.
Thanks so much. There's Murat Atesh. Give him a follow on Twitter at MuratWPG. And check out and make sure you're subscribed to The Athletic. All right, we are going to get the latest on we're going to get the latest on the Manitoba Moose, who have kind of turned things around lately. We'll do that with the Fink in just 1 second. I do want to thank our friends at Princess Auto for the great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. We'll kind of get more into some CFL offseason talk and where teams go from here over the next couple weeks. But one thing I know where we're all going next year is Princess Auto Stadium to welcome the 4-time defending Western Division champion Winnipeg Blue Bombers for another great season. Of course, Princess Auto, proud sponsors of the Bombers and their home field, as well as Winnipeg Sports Talk and so many other individuals in our community. Princess Auto is where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. Pop by and see them, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, or shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. Proudly headquartered right here in the Peg, Winnipeg made. It is Princess Auto. Speaking of Winnipeg made, Royal Sports is the spot for sports fans and has been for over 40 years, is the number one spot to get all of your number one fan gear, whether you're looking for Winnipeg Jets jerseys, hats, toques, T-shirts. They've got it all in the biggest selection in town. A great bomber section, NFL. By the way, those Chiefs Super Bowl gear is going to be coming in as well soon. You know, I'll be jumping on all over that, as well as baseball and Jays with the season just around the corner, but also for people playing, and whether it is hockey, the biggest hockey section in town, snowboards, boots, bindings for your spring break trip, soccer and more. There's only one spot for you. It's Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Make sure to follow them on Instagram as well for the latest merchandise drops and sale information from our friends over at Royal Sports. And a couple days without the Jets. Great one tonight, though. Edmonton and Boston. And, of course, Friday night, 7:30 from Chi-Town. The Jets will take on Bedard and the Blackhawks. If you're heading out to watch the game, the best place is always your local Boston Pizza, ice-cold schooners, world-famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, and more in the big game on the big screen with big sound when the Winnipeg Jets are playing. Staying at home tonight, you can always order online and get it hot and fresh to your door at bostonpizza.com. All right, let's bring in the Fink. Looks like he's out at the Iceplex, doing his thing, getting ready for big weekend at home for the Manitoba Moose. Dan, what's going on? How are you?
Not too much. Doing well. Yourself, Hutch? Can't say your name all of a sudden. It's been a while.
All good. Nice win last night for the Winnipeg Jets. Lots to talk about with the club right now. And when it comes to the AHL club in town, imagine it's been a lot more fun around the club for the last couple of weeks. They had a real tough start to 2024, but despite going up against the juggernaut Milwaukee Admirals recently and losing a heartbreaker, this team has been playing much better and, most importantly, getting the results that they need.
Yeah, I guess when we last spoke, they were out on that big, long road segment and really kind of threw up the defibrillator panels and gave a good shock to their season after that tough start to 2024. And I was talking to Mark Morrison about that road trip, and they had some frank discussions that road trip, with the 5-game trip leading into the All-Star break and then another 4-game trip after, 9 consecutive games away from home, was going to kind of make or break their season. And, they rolled into that and they picked up 6 wins. So you couldn't ask for much more from this club. They added points in another one of those games, and they've shown some real resiliency, not only just to get things turned in the correct direction again, but whether you want to or not, you obviously don't want to have to battle from behind, but they have been doing so and fighting back into games. We saw that in Grand Rapids, where they got back from a 3-game deficit or 3-goal deficit in the third period to get back on even terms, force a shootout. They came from behind to win a couple more games on that trip. So it certainly showed kind of the resiliency this team has built, and maybe some of the maturity starting to creep in, but ran into a tough test this past weekend against the Milwaukee Admirals, who showed exactly why they have now won 17 straight games, which is tied for second most in AHL history. And you know what? Moose deserved 2 points. The second game between the clubs just couldn't find a way to get that 4th goal across the line. And sometimes it's just how hockey goes.
Yeah, and of course, that's Nashville's team. That Askarov is, part of the reason why we're hearing potential trade rumors around UC Saros is they've got, such a young stud there. Speaking of goaltending, Oskari Salminen has been moved out, and it looks like Thomas Milic can, be comfortable. He's playing well. Give us a bit of a synopsis of Milic's season overall, and since he's returned, and how he's performing for the Moose in net.
Well, this is good timing because we're working on a piece about Thomas Milic for the AHL website right now. But it really has been quite the season for him. I mean, you look at this 20-year-old goaltender who starts out in professional hockey with the Norfolk Admirals and getting that start. And in one of the first weeks of the season, he's the ECHL goaltender of the week. Comes up with the Moose, gets his first win, and then heads back to Norfolk before quickly swinging off to the Spengler Cup with Team Canada, then back to play in the ECHL All-Star game. And now, all of a sudden, he started 7 of the past 10 games for the Manitoba Moose and is the 3rd youngest goaltender in the AHL this season. So here's a kid who has really come in and acquitted himself with confidence and poise between the pipes, and he's been reliable for the Moose. And you see that played out by how much time he's gotten in between the pipes. So split the last 4 games now with Colin Delia with the back-to-backs, but has certainly taken the opportunity that was afforded to him and made the most out of it to kind of really settle himself in between the pipes and look comfortable.
Dan, he's going to be a guy, I'm sure we'll see him in the net for at least one of the games on the weekend. We'll get to the homestand in a second. We focus so much on the younger players on this club for obvious reasons. But tell us about the return and the boost that it's given to have a veteran like Dominic Toninato come back, as well as Axel Jonsson-Fjällby, who both played very well during their time with the Winnipeg Jets in their given opportunities.
Yeah, it was certainly interesting to see those two, along with David Gustafsson, get into the lineup against Calgary. And you could see 3 guys playing at NHL pace and NHL execution, just carving up the ice. So it was really cool to see those guys work together. The finish hasn't quite been there for the trio. They have had a lot of chances over the last few games, or last 4 games or so since they've been around, but hasn't necessarily translated. I mean, you see Axel Jonsson-Fjällby setting up a pretty goal for Simon Lundmark on Monday. David Gustafsson had an assist as well on that tally. But Dominic Toninato comes in that second game against Calgary, gets a huge goal, not quite shorthanded, about 3 seconds after a penalty expired. So he's out there killing the penalty, gets a big goal, and comes through for the club. And you know what? Here's a guy who knows this Moose team. He scored 19 goals for them last season. They're very at home in Antlers. And you bring players that are just playing at that NHL pace, like I mentioned, and it is so helpful. And you can get a little bit more stability throughout your lineup, and it really gives something for the younger guys to look at. But I'm sure the Moose would like to see some of that finish start to come for them a little bit over the last little bit. So we did see them put up 3 goals against the Admirals and kind of start to get moving in the right direction again.
Speaking of finish, how's the young Finn Ville Heinola handling right now?
Yeah, I mean, that Moose defense core certainly looks a little more dangerous with him and Kyle Capobianco on the back end. And for Ville, it's just that process of getting up to where he was at training camp and where he was kind of in the playoffs before he suffered an injury with the Moose before that. So obviously a frustrating time for Heinola to go down with an injury. But I mean, it's all about patience, as it always is. I mean, you heard Murat before I got on preaching patience with the prospects not even here yet. So it's this a bit of a different situation, obviously, but here's a guy that you're just trying to get up to full pace after missing 40 games, and that is a hard pace to get back to. I mean, you look at Jimmy Olney trying to fight through the same thing, different injuries, but a similar situation last season, and it took a while for him to get back up to full pace, and I don't know if he would have told you that he got back up to that full speed by the time the season ended. So you just try to put players in positions to succeed and let Ville get as many reps as he can, and certainly has been able to find the back of the net a few times and set up some goals as well. But it's for those D-men, it's about so much more than just racking up some points along the way. So it's just taking that step every time, just trying to get back all the way up to full pace. And
you mentioned Capobianco. I mean, he has been so solid for the Moose all season long, and up at the top of the scoring leaders for the club as well. A guy that's really handled the hand that's been dealt to him in an incredibly professional way. And I would argue that is another reason why we'll see what the Jets do at the deadline, but has shown that, he's a phone call away. And that's a guy that when he did play last year in the Jet lineup, albeit briefly, acquitted himself quite well, and certainly has continued doing that from Mark Morrison.
certainly an underrated ability to go stretches of time without playing and then getting into the lineup and delivering. I mean, backup goaltenders will certainly say that is definitely a crucial ability. And for Kyle Capobianco, it's been great to see him night in and night out, because what he can do on an ice surface in the American Hockey League is just stunning sometimes. He'll start with the puck at his own end, and then all of a sudden he's feeding somebody backdoor all the way up at the other end of the ice, and then he's back defensively. And it is just watching him fly around is something else, and it really is. You can see why this guy has 147 points in his first 200 AHL games, which is off the charts for a defenseman. Why he's been at the AHL All-Star Classic all 4 times that he's even been eligible to be a part of it. So here's a guy that was at one point over the last little bit leading American Hockey League in defense scoring, and when he was up there, he was also one of the only players in that top 20 in scoring that was also a +10 on the plus-minus side of things. So when you look at what he does night in and night out, and the minutes that he logs, and just the amount of kilometers that he probably skates a night going back and forth, it's something to behold. And it certainly is. I mean, just another player to add to kind of the run of delightful players on the back end that we've been able to watch with the Moose over the last 4 or 5 seasons. Dan Fink is the play-by-play voice of the Manitoba Moose. You can hear all of his calls at cgob.com and at moosehockey.com, and occasionally on OB as well. Let's look ahead to this weekend against Calgary. The team split last week in Cowtown. And I imagine it's sort of feeling almost like playoff level pressure for the Moose right now, because they've won recent games. They've gotten the results they needed. And while the overall standings don't look great, they put themselves right back into a position where they are in a dogfight to be playing playoff hockey in a couple months. Yeah, sort of a break for the Moose in that despite not having to start to 2024 they wanted, their division is also hasn't really had a ton of success outside of the division so far. So that the run that they had on the road got them back into the fight. It didn't secure them anything by any means. They've fallen back out by a point out of a playoff spot now, and they're right there, like you said, in a battle with Iowa and Chicago for that final spot, as it seems like Rockford, despite the Moose beating them 3 times on that road swing, were able to kind of pull away over the last few days. They were able to string together a few wins, and slowly but surely, that Rockford team that I looked at the beginning of the season said these guys could make some noise. They're starting to get some players back as Chicago gets healthy, and Chicago's had a couple of guys on waivers that all of a sudden have got through to Rockford, and they should be getting some more guys back healthy soon. So that is definitely a team for folks to keep their eye on in the final stages of the season, especially with Lucas Reichel on that Rockford roster. But I digress. With Chicago and Iowa currently in that battle along with the Moose, every point is so important. And you look at this Calgary team coming in, they were without Dustin Wolf the last time the Moose faced off against them. Now, Calgary got Dustin Wolf-like goaltending from Connor Murphy, so maybe it isn't that too big of a difference for Manitoba this weekend. But when you're up against the reigning MVP, the 2-time reigning goaltender of the year in the AHL, you know you are in for an absolute fight. So the Moose know that they're going to have to try and get to the net. They know that they're going to have to try and make his life as miserable as possible, because the other team coming back the other way is going to do just that. We saw Calgary really crash the crease against Thomas Milic and Colin Dealey, and they were having to battle in their crease to make saves. And so that's something that the Moose are definitely going to want to be aware of defensively and try to emulate with the puck themselves, because yes, you are right, Huss. We're into that part of the season now where every game is crucial, and it really is a playoff game every single night here for the Manitoba Moose, and you know that isn't lost on the team. The kids understood the assignment last week for the Superhero Day, another big annual event. Follow Your Dreams coming up this weekend to fill people in on just the games and what's planned for the Calgary series. Yeah, that Superhero Day is just amazing to watch. And I couldn't help but laugh on the air when I looked down in one of the intermissions. The Timbits are all wearing capes, ripping around the ice. Absolutely adorable, hilarious, all of it. It was great, and it really is amazing what that matinee Monday game has turned into for the Moose. But yes, you mentioned Follow Your Dreams Day. I believe the jerseys are either in the process of getting revealed or just got revealed this afternoon. While I'm coming in and out of meetings here and onto the air, it's tough to keep up with all the happenings all the time. But absolutely gorgeous jerseys this year. Take me back to kind of the first season of that jersey, which is really one of my favorite jerseys of all time. Period. Any hockey hockey jersey. And so going back to that dark look with a little bit more of a simplified look this year, kind of the orange playing a larger part within the jersey as well. And it's such a beautiful jersey to see out the ice. And what a great initiative between the Moose and the Jets, and bringing kids down to get to see pro hockey games that they might not have had that opportunity. The game is available for free on AHL TV on Saturday. Wanted to make sure with the AHL that that game was accessible. We have so many kids coming in from up north. Want to be sure that their family and friends can see the game as well. So that's the free game of the week on AHL TV. Just need an account and you can tune in and watch the broadcast there. So really excited to be able to bring that game to everybody, but we'd love to see everyone down at the rink to take part in the artist showcases on the concourse, things like that. It really is just such an exciting weekend here for the Moose, for the Jets, and really proud of kind of where this game has built to over the last few years, and love to show everybody that. So be sure to get your tickets at moosehockey.com/tickets. That's a 6:00 puck drop on Saturday against the Wranglers. Can't make that game. Good news. They'll be playing the night before on Friday as well. That's a 7:00 puck drop at Canada Life Center. And once again, moosehockey.com/tickets to get yours.
Yeah, a lot of hockey this weekend. Moose Friday at 7, Moose Saturday at 6, Jets Sunday at 5. Many options for you if you want to get to the downtown rink and get behind our local teams. Finker, always great having you on the program. Good luck to the squad on the weekend. We'll catch up soon.
Thanks a lot, Huss. Talk to you soon.
Appreciate it. There it is, the man himself, Dan Fink. You can follow him on Twitter as well, at Daniel the Fink. Always got some great insight as to what's happening with the Manitoba Moose. All right, we are going to get to what's happening tonight in the NHL and a couple other funny things that came out of last night. Just before we do that, shout out to our friends at Sport Manitoba. We'll have another It Takes a Community to Play segment on tomorrow's show, so make sure to check out for that. And thanks again to Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries for their support of those programs. And got to thank our pals at Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, who I know are all fired up for the Jets right now and all fired up for the upcoming summer, as am I, to get back out to Aikens. Of course, highlight of my summer each and every year. Gang, if you're thinking about an amazing fly-in fishing trip where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg, check out Aikens Lake at aikenslake.com. World-class fishing. And as I always say, as great as the fishing is, the hospitality from the Terrence family and the Aikens team is that much better. They're at aikenslake.com. Online, find out more about booking availability for the upcoming summer. And you can also check out everything going on at the lodge over the last few years on their Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook feeds at Aikens Lake. Let's get Remo back in here, and fun chat with Finker about the Moose, and busy weekend. And I know we've been doing some tickets that folks might want to get their hands on via WST.
Yeah, I've been doing just giveaways, winnipegsportstalk.com/contest. I had one on for Friday's game. That one is expired, so I'll have to get on it and update that. We can give away some Saturdays. And I know there's a ton of games, Moose games, in March, so we will be on that here. So stay tuned listening and following us on all our social medias, subscribing to our newsletter as well, putting that in the chat. So a number of ways to win Moose tickets coming up here with Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Yeah, and not just Moose tickets as well. AEW. Shout out to, I believe it was Isha Boy Bruce won tickets last week for us. We're going to have a couple more pairs to give away. Don't forget the AEW event is Wednesday, April 10th here in the Peg. Of course, AEW featuring some of the most world-renowned Winnipeggers, including Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega, and even manager, the dastardly Don Callis. The event last year was so much fun. Cannot wait to get back out there. So make sure you're subscribed to the mailing list for your opportunities to win AEW tickets. And be sure to join us daily on YouTube for a couple of pop-up giveaways, which will be happening over the next few weeks. But again, tickets available now for AEW Winnipeg in April right now at Ticketmaster. And no pucks tonight for the Jets, so maybe you'll tune in to AEW Dynamite, which is at 7 o'clock weekly on TSN 2. Let's get to the Coolbet lines tonight. before we talk about an epic jersey that I saw at last night's game that needs to be discussed. Tonight, 5 games in the NHL. There's one main event and 4 other games. And you'll know why when I go through this.
It's Austin Matthews return to Arizona. Going for 50 goals, Austin Matthews. Come on.
Well, he is an incredible story this year. I mean, he could get 50 in February and may do it tonight, which would be incredible. Buffalo's in Montreal. Buffalo's a -140 favorite. The Habs +119. Philly's in Chicago to take on the Blackhawks. Philly's a -222 favorite. The Blackhawks +125 home dogs. The Blue Jackets, who got lit up last night. Oh my God, did you see that Byfield goal?
I did see it. Pretty ridiculous.
That's goal of the year, I think. I mean, maybe I'm just, recency bias, but I can't remember anything as spectacular as that this season. What a goal by Quentin Byfield last night for the Kings. Anyway, Seabus is continuing their trip out west. They're in Anaheim tonight. Blue Jackets -103, Ducks -114. And the aforementioned Maple Leafs and Mr. Matthews -175 favorites. And the Arizona Coyotes, who have lost 10 in a row, 9-1 in their last 10, +148 at home. The main event, though, of tonight is this game in Edmonton. The Boston Bruins and the Edmonton Oilers. Connor McDavid is on an absolute tear right now, but hasn't been scoring. He's been getting tons of assists. Hasn't scored in 6 games, though. I think we might be leaning on a McDavid goal tonight at +109, but the Oilers are -134, and the Bruins are +114. As far as Matthews goes, how's this for a goal total, Remo? -130 for Austin Matthews to score. And to be honest, I think he does it tonight. Maybe 2 at +320.
Yes, he had a monster game on Saturday, and not every time he shoots the puck goes in, but he's prolific scorer. His goals per game up there among the greatest of all time. I know he plays for Toronto, but this guy's having a historic season. Big storyline tonight, returning home to Arizona, but also Arizona, they got this 10-game losing streak. And I know the Maple Leafs don't really have the best record when they are massive favorites. And they're only -175 tonight. I think the Jets were like -400 or something against the Sharks.
The Sharks, yeah. -425, I think
which
it was.
Is an absurd number. They're actually not even that big favorites, which is kind of surprising. Maybe because they're on the road. I don't know. I guess they're missing Morgan Riley. He's still suspended. Timothy Liljegren taking his spot on the first power play. But yes, I do like Matthews tonight, and hard not to like him every night, but -130. It's kind of crazy, but I think it's deserved. He's almost at a goal per game.
Oh, hey, by the way, we did the lock shop today. Pat Gregoire, myself, and Dustin Nielsen. We always like to put together a little exclusive for the PGA Tour tournament. I do have a bunch of Mexico Open specials in the exclusives, including our lock shop partner parlay. This is Tony's tournament. Tony Finau, my favorite. He's +750 to win. But we've got a 22-1 prop with Tony Finau top 5, Canadian Taylor Pendrith, and Doug Gim, the Gim Reaper, both to finish in the top 20. That one is at 22-1. They've also got some Canadian props as well. But I will, while we're mentioning golf, shout out to Manitoba's Aaron Cockrell, who's having a hell of a year this year on the DP World Tour, his best so far. This week, it's the magical Kenya Open, and it is a pretty wide open field. And Aaron Cockrell, I'm throwing a little sprinkle down on AC at 33-1 to win this event. That is also available at Coolbet. We've got Scotty's odds as well for tonight. BC versus Saskatchewan. Ooh, Carrie Anderson versus Caitlin Laws. Canada, big favorite in that one, -294. Been a tougher week for Manitoba and Caitlin so far. Newfoundland and Alberta. Alberta, a massive favorite. And Northern Ontario, -370 favorite versus Quebec. Just for while we're talking about this, let's give you a quick little Scotties update as far as how things are shaping up in the standings. The Tournament of Hearts is as follows. Alberta still 6-0 on top of Pool A, but right behind there is Carrie Anderson and the 4-time defending champion rink representing Canada from Gimli. Saskatchewan 4-3 for the top 3. And then, wow, Caitlin Laws has won her last 2 games. So a 4-way tie at 3-3 for 4th spot right now. Those teams not out of it. Rachel Homan's rolling. They're 5-0, leading Pool B. Clancy Grandy, 5-1. Her lone loss to Jen Jones. Jen just had her first loss earlier. She's at 4-1 right now. So there'll be plenty of Manitoba content heading into the weekend at the Scotties out in Calgary. And again, Coolbet's booking that as well. If you haven't played a Coolbet before, use the promo code WST for a 100% bonus on your first deposit up to $200. You got any leans for tonight?
Austin Matthews. I'm in on him. I'm interested in this Ducks Blue Jackets game. Blue Jackets played last night, and they're on the end, winding down this western swing. Looking at that, and you know who's been really good, Huss, for Montreal lately? Uri Slavkovsky. I don't know. He's still on the top line. I don't know if they've really caught up to him. Where is he? Not even listed for points, but that's a guy who I got my eye on as well. Maybe if you want to take him score or something. Where is he? At plus 240. That's not bad, actually.
Got to give a shout out to our pal Balls. He went back-to-back in the WST DraftKings.
Did he?
Riding Sean Monahan the last couple of days. He had him against Calgary. Had him again last night. Again, if send us a message or whatever if you're a DraftKings player and you want to get in the WST DraftKings events as well tonight. One interesting little tidbit from that Anaheim game that you mentioned. Frank Vetrano's been hot right now. He's got 4 goals, 2 assists in his last few games. And obviously they're going up against the Blue Jackets team that played last night. Vetrano minus 133 to get a point and plus 370 on to get 2 points or more. Might be laying a little marker down on that as well. All right, listen, before we go, Remo, I want to get the chat's response. Many people probably saw this on Twitter already. But if you can, go to my feed and pull up this jersey that I saw last night at the game. Second intermission, I'm rolling through the lower bowl. There's a lineup of guys to go to the bathroom, and I see this dude in an 80 jersey. And of course, we know it's Pierre-Luc Dubois, but it looks like he has an X on top of it. So I got a little closer, nearly spit out my drink. Look at the mod job on this one. Very, very creative. It is an X with an I in the middle, and the I intersects with Kapari, Vilardi, Iafallo, and then the last part of the X is impressive. I laughed about that the entire intermission and felt that this sort of creativity and hard work needed to be brought to Twitter, and it has now been quote tweeted or boosted by Craig Button, Steve Dangle, and the like. And my inbox has just been absolutely flooded because everybody's got a take on what this guy did to his old PLD jersey.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of doctoring jerseys, but I would have never thought of putting the I in the middle. I think he loses some points for spelling. Vilardi and Kupari are spelled incorrectly.
Speaking of that, Drew Mindell of Illegal Curve and Garrett Hull are those guys. Like within a second of me tweeting this, they were racing to go, he spelled Kapari wrong. They were in such a race, they didn't even notice or mention that Vilardi also spelt wrong.
Yes.
Again, yellow card on the spelling, but great marks on this for the very, very interesting creativity that went into this. And somewhere Kevin Cheveldayoff is smiling and giving this guy a head nod.
Yeah, I mean, you can't, normally I'm a fan of like getting traded player jerseys. You can usually find a deal on them, but I think Dubois is just such a disliked player here that you can't really give those away. And this guy's got this jersey, still wants to wear it, but I mean, make it a tribute jersey to the other players. So I'm okay. I'm okay with this, I guess. Some creative stuff. I did see someone have a jersey, actually. Someone posted it on their Instagram. Here, I'm gonna pull this up right now if I can grab it. One sec. Someone had a jersey that just had like everyone's first name on it. Let me see if he still has it. Okay. Let me.
Like 55, Mark?
No, it's insane. Okay, one sec. I gotta show this one. So I saw it on someone's Instagram story yesterday, and I'm just emailing it to myself. But it says it's a heritage blue jersey that just has everyone's first name on it. Buff, Helly, Wheels, Toby, Shifes, Josh. What's it? Nick, Kyle, Lau. And then at the bottom, it has Shank and Chip. Okay, wait, let me pull this jersey out. This is the most ridiculous jersey.
Okay, you pull that up. I'm just looking at the comments for I'm just looking at the comments for this jersey. Sweet, love it, awesome. Petroleum Pete, that should be our city's flag. Yes, a few shots at the spelling, but what can we do? He's not a big spelling guy. And Bruce, honestly, probably cheaper to buy a PLD Jets jersey and just put a new name bar on there. And Yin Vivian, a couple people actually asking about any update on Brianne Harris. No, there's no. Ted Wyman had a good article in the Sun last night saying, and again, they have said nothing, so I guess this is technically speculation, but I mean, Ted's been all over the story, and it sounds like there's a 20-day window where at that point, if it is something from having to do with a banned substance, that it would be made public, or 20 days from an unsuccessful appeal. So I'm not saying that is what it is, but certainly speculation is that, because there's been nothing else. The team hasn't been able to talk about it. And listen, pulling for Carrie and the girls to make history, although unfortunate that they won't be doing it with Brianne Harris. All right, do you have this jersey, Reem?
I do, and shout out to Brett. I'll give him a shout out who posted this on his Instagram. I never seen anything like this one. Here, check this out.
Buff, Helly, Wheels, Toby, Shifes, Josh, Nick, Kyle, Lau, Shank, Chip. No number, just names.
Just straight, yeah, what is that? 5 name bars. Vertical.
I don't think I've ever seen anything like that before. You've seen those T-shirts that are like Shaq and Kobe and Paul, when they're looking at great teams. Nothing like that, though. That's a very interesting jersey. We have two very unique jerseys featured at the end of today's program, to say the least.
Yeah, I'm more of a straight like player name number, but I'm a fan of creativity, and this is certainly unique, and we're getting a lot of great comments. BA says, "Oh, Shank and Chip, Tiger had one of those last round." I mean, I see Kyle Lau. I'm like, oh, is it a Raptors jersey? But I mean, this is well done by whoever this is.
The Iron Shank.
The Iron
Nicely done, Earl. Nicely done, Earl. Anyways, we thought we'd fire those up for you for the end of the program. Who was asking me? Oh, waiters asking me about the Antonio Pierce comments. I haven't had a lot of chance to talk about the Chiefs since the Super Bowl because I was away last week, but I'll be more than happy to dive in on this one. So yes, Antonio Pierce citing the old Detroit Pistons and the Jordan rules for the way the Pistons handled Michael Jordan early on in his career. and has said that he's instituting the Mahomes rules, where they are going to be getting after him. I got news for Mr. Pierce. Max Crosby, the all-pro defensive end that plays every down for you. You can ask him. He's been going after Mahomes his entire career. They've got a great rivalry, but Mahomes isn't scared. And in today's NFL, cheap shots against quarterbacks are taken quite seriously. So I guess I respect the notion of it. And listen, if I was the Raiders and saw the Chiefs go in, take over their locker room, their end zone, win the Super Bowl in their home stadium, and then have MVS plant the flag after the confetti were flying, I would be ready to go for next season as well. It's a great rivalry, but I don't think we're going to see outlaw justice or anything like that on Patrick Mahomes from the Raiders. But you can rest assured that the Chiefs' next visit to Oakland, or to Vegas, I should say, is going to be a heck of a matchup. Good show today, Reem. It's always fun after a win, although this is an interesting one last night. There were things that were expected to happen that didn't. There were some really good. There was some not so good. And bottom line, the team had a day off today. They'll practice tomorrow and then get out to Chicago for Friday night's tilt against Bedard and the Hawks.
Yeah, great discussion today. Look back on the game. Murat always bringing it on the Jets. Finker and a solid information on season tickets that we're already getting DMs about us. So lots.
Beautiful. Yeah, and just if you missed that earlier, we wanted to have Norva Riddell on to talk about their campaign right now. I mean, I think it's not a surprise to everyone that this team and organization needs to get back to a healthy season ticket base that really dropped off going into this season. They've been working, they've been talking to a lot of people. It's sort of come out right now. And for the first time, if you do commit to a package for next season, you'll be able to get priority playoff tickets, I believe, at the package price. So the details are there at winnipegjets.com/deposit. But as I mentioned, I have a feeling there's probably plenty of WSTers that have maybe been thinking about, getting a package or getting in with some folks on season tickets. So we do want to sort of be, particularly within our community right here, if there are some folks that are looking to share a pair of seats or some businesses that are looking to do that, fire us a DM, fire us a message, and we'll try and connect some people together, maybe get some seats all around in the same area. And listen, just trying to do our part to get the back where the team needs to be. And hey, there's nothing, as a season ticket holder, I'll tell you, that's been there for every year since the team came back. There's nothing better than the buzz of a full building, and we know how important it is to the continued competitive nature of the club as well. So send us a message on that. And if you missed Norva Riddell's visit earlier, it's all there for you earlier on today's episode. Once again, thanks to all of you. A fun show today, well over 500 at one point. Hit that subscribe button and thumbs up if you haven't already. Tell a friend about Winnipeg Sports Talk if you have the opportunity. And join us tomorrow. Is tomorrow's Mike or Ken?
Mike is tomorrow, and
Mike tomorrow.
Ken
Beautiful.
on Friday.
So, I mean, lots of Jets talk. We'll get Billick and Rowicki on over the next couple days as well. And big slate of games tomorrow. So we'll also talk about everything happening around the league. And maybe the latest, it seems like the trade market has kind of died down, or at least the talks died down a little bit since Monahan and Lindholm were dealt. That's going to be changing very quickly as we get closer to the deadline. So we'll touch in on that as well on an off day. But the latest from Jets practice, and then a flight to Chicago for a game against Bedard and the Blackhawks on Friday night. Thanks again to all the WST sponsors for making this show happen each and every day, and all of you for hanging out with us. Have a great one tonight. Thanks again to Norva, Murat, and Fink for popping on today, and we'll see you tomorrow live 1 p.m. on YouTube right here on WST. Have a good one.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.